Tell me what's on your mind.
All right, gentlemen. Sorry I got caught a little bit flat-footed there. Well, as soon as he makes it back, we got Shadow Punk over here, and we got Aaron down there. I think Aaron's booting his computer up, so he'll be with us shortly. Anyway,
he lived up to his name.
Oh, what's that?
My bad. I was saying he truly lived up to his name.
Yeah, he just poof. He's a shadow. He's gone. Anyway, he'll be back shortly. He'll be back. Anyway, today we're going to talk about branding. Let me get us closer up view there. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about branding. We're going to talk a little bit about creating your je ne sais quoi, as it were. I mean, I don't know another word for it. Anyway, and the man, speaking of the devil, he shall appear. No problem, no problem, no problem. All right. I saw the thing that kind of spurred this the other day. Oh yeah, look at that.
I finally got Tiger Blue to print.
That looks awesome. Holy crap!
I'm gonna paint one of these and print another one and then give them away in one of my contests.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
And maybe it'll promote his thing, right? Oh, here we go. Maybe it'll promote his thing.
Yeah. So maybe you need to put like arrows in his back or something, like little pins in his back. I mean,
that's a cool idea. I like that idea.
Yeah, you saw the cartoon, right? He gets look like a pincushion,
That's cool, man. I don't want to derail your conversation, but sometimes when you print these things, they have a hard time printing when they're small, thin things. Right. Like whiskers. Like we couldn't put his whiskers because they would break when you print them. Right. Oh, so the arrows, you'd have to make them pretty thick, but it'd be cool. I like that idea.
Yeah. 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 Right. Just like jab. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Anyway, that's a good example. Good example. Matthew Fowler, spent for a long time trying to find some kind of distinctive thing. He did several projects. Creators Outlet says that he well, I'll run your commercial for a figure. I'm cheap and easy.
Oh, cool. What's up, Will?
And Nefarious says, what's good, nerds? Yeah. Yeah. But Matthew Fowler's a good example of that, because Matthew Fowler for a long time he was around, and he has a great streaming setup. He's a cool guy. And he had like all these kind of little bit niche IPs, Seiko 99 or 66, I think. Then he did the Prospectors, which didn't fund, and then he did Tiger Blue, or Dixie Rose, which was sci-fi set in a strip club. By the way, is an actual strip club near his house. But these things didn't really take off. And then he showed up on that chat, and since Follow the Link became a thing, where he showed up in this situation. The Liberty thing was on B Rose. The Liberty distribution thing was on B Rose, and they were like basically questioning the two that were kind of like behind the Liberty distributor, and they were like giving them like half half-assed answers, and then suddenly he's like, send me the link. They sent him the link, and he like bored into them, and got the thing, got the questions asked, and everybody remembered that. So send Follow the Link suddenly became a brand.
Oh, cool.
And the next thing he launched was Tiger Blue. Looks great. It's great IP. And hold on one second. Let's get the actual Aaron in here.
There he is. There he is.
What's up, man?
PC's trying to get up, but go ahead, man.
Creators Outlet says, I was a strip club DJ for 30 plus years.
Dude,
all right,
that's
man.
The best job in the world.
I bet you heard "Pour Some Sugar on Me" a couple times. Not that I've ever been in a strip club. Just saying.
A lot of Billy Squire.
There you go. There, Billy Squire. Yeah. Struck me. Yep. Yeah, I imagine that would be in a strip club. All right. Anyway. But the thing about it is that suddenly his next project just like took off.
Totally.
And it was a great IP, and that had something to do with it. But the fact that people knew who he was, had a lot to do with it. He suddenly had a brand. You know what I'm saying? So having a creator brand as well as an IP brand, I think is like one of the really important things. I hate that effing song. I bet you do. Anyway, when I came up, I was watching this video. There's this show called Professor of Rock. It's if you've never seen the show, you need to watch it. He interviews like people that nobody cares about anymore. These people that made all these hits and stuff, and they kind of faded in obscurity. He like interviews them, and he like puts his music on a display. He's like the modern Casey Kasem, if you know who that is.
Right.
Casey Kasem.
Yeah. He kind of like he's patterned himself after Casey Kasem. And it's a really good show. But he was interviewing a lady named KT Tunstall. Now, KT Tunstall did a song called Black Horse and a Cherry Tree. You ever heard that one?
I hate that song. I hear it every day at work.
Okay. Well, but KT Tunstall was a nobody. She didn't even have an album out, and she was in. For some reason, Jules Holland got a hold of her name, right? I guess through her manager, and she came on with Jules Holland, and what they do is they do performances on Jules Holland. This is a big show over in England, and they bring people on like a mixture of like people that are like established, like they had Anita Baker, they had The Cure, they had like a couple other big names, and she comes on and she's nobody, and she does this loop pedal thing with that song where she basically makes her own background, and then she does the song over her own background, right? And okay. And she won the show against all these other big names, and she didn't even have an album out, but when she came out, it was like really distinctive, and people were like, "Holy crap, I want this!" Right? And she had to use the audio from that show because she hadn't even recorded that song in the studio.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, take advantage of it, right? Why not?
Right. Exactly. But she said something at the end of that show that was really interesting to me. She said that her younger brother has a hearing loss. So he was born with hearing loss, and he finally got colloquial implants, which allowed him to hear more frequencies.
Right. Yeah.
And they were in like a grocery store, and her song came on, and her brother turned to her and he says, "That's you, isn't it?"
Wow.
And she said she broke out in tears, not only because he heard it for the first time, but he knew it was her. And that meant that she had like put herself enough of herself in her art that it was instantly, discernible to anybody that knew her.
Cool.
And so she says, if anybody new artists come up to me all the time, how in the world did you do what you did and break out into the public and the zeitgeist like that? And she's like, well, they got to know who you are in the first 4 bars.
Yes.
If they know who you are in the first 4 bars, then you'll make it. And so that kind of really got to me, I was like, because I was thinking about that. I was like, branding is all about people have to know who you are in the first 4 bars, or the first on the scene, or when they first see you, or when they see something like that's indicative of you, like the shadow punk thing that you're doing is very interesting because that whole red blue scheme and the way you do your art is very distinctive, and it's going to wind up being your brand.
It kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was thinking like Frank Miller, right? The second you see an image,
That's Frank Miller. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, all as artists, we all have our own distinctive way of doing things.
Right.
You can't help it, right? I mean, I've tried to copy people, like used to copy the masters, right? I would try to copy, and it doesn't, quite honestly, it didn't work. When I did it didn't work. I was like, it looks like a bad copy of something that was good. And oh, okay. Yeah, we got tons of stuff to show him.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think the trick is in making your style compelling to draw people in, and that's not easy to do. And for me, it's a constant challenge to keep up the quality, to like really think things through to make it. And by the way, some people don't have to think it through; they can just do like a fast drawing, and it looks like totally kick ass, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Frank Frazetta could pick up a pencil with his nose and draw with his nose and probably make it look distinctive, right?
Right. Exactly. We got somebody in our community named Narwhal.
Oh yeah, I just talked to him yesterday.
Yeah, and he's very distinctive.
Totally.
I mean, his art is a little bit polarizing. You either really like it or you despise it. I mean, but the thing about it is it's him. Instantly. I mean, I was looking through Malin's book that came out with Graveyard Shift 3, and I didn't really realize Narwhal was in that book.
Oh,
but then I flipped through and I saw his art, and I was like, oh, I didn't know Narwhal was in this book, but I knew who it was. I knew who it was just like instantaneously.
The thing I like about Narwhal's work is that it has so much life to it. It feels like because a lot of times artists can noodle it too much, right? Yeah. It loses all the life, and his stuff is like on fire with life.
Right.
Definitely.
Well, it's like he was saying to you. I caught some of the show yesterday when he was saying that he realized that he liked his sketches more than he liked the finished product.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
And wait, hold on 1 second. No, the farrier says Narwhal can't draw straight lines.
Thankfully, that's true, right?
Right.
Because we don't need him to draw straight lines. We need him to keep doing the cool stuff.
Right.
He was asking me about animation, and I said, I can show you the things I know about animation, but I don't want to be the guy responsible for shifting you away from your style. Right. Because he's branded in a way it looks distinctive. And if I said, hey, do X, Y, and Z, you'll start to look more, his animation will start to look more like Pixar in a way. And I'm like, who wants that? I want cool Narwhal stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's like Mr. Wolfsbane down here, Aaron, he's got a very distinctive brand when he added that the black with the yellow on it, the Wolfsbane logo. He's got it on his cap there, but he also has this when he comes on streams, he has this very unique.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he has a very unique style. I mean, as much as he hates it, he's got a very distinctive way of pronouncing things. But he also has very insightful ways of bringing stuff up. He's got his own brand. He really does.
Exactly. Shoot, I'm trying to figure out a way to fucking come up with fucking titles. Hell, I know you guys have been through that shit.
Yeah.
Titles?
Yeah.
You mean like titles for the book
for
or
your
something?
IP? Yeah.
Oh, right.
Band in
totally.
General.
Right.
I'll say this, okay? I'm not a writer by trade, so I'm kind of probably like you. I'm just an artist, Aaron. But
I'm a writer.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I can't draw as well as I want. Like if I would draw my own book.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah.
Nah.
Okay. Well, it's as a writer. As a human being, you could just. What I did is I wrote down like 100 different titles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I kind of put them together, pull them apart. I think so, if you're a writer, you always think about words and things, right?
Right.
And so I didn't have that luxury. So I had to do it like I was like mentally disabled, right? I had to go, write them down and go, hopefully I'll get something, but just a million ways to go about it, I think, I mean, you can have something like Mickey Mouse, right? Mickey Mouse rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
That's one thing that Stan Lee did with his IPs is he always had that alliteration.
Yes.
Stephen Strange, Matt Murdock, Peter Parker, Bruce Banner. I mean, the alliteration. I mean, it's a subtle trick, but it worked for him. I mean, people still remember those names all the way till today. I mean, one of the interesting things that when I went to decide what my logo was going to be, I was like, I went back to the basics. I went back to I tore it down to the studs exactly what it is I want to be, what it is I want to represent, and one of the things I wanted to represent the most was my writing. Okay. And so I have a book called On Writing, which Stephen King wrote, and there's this and there's this exercise in it where the first thing you read in that book is an exercise where he says, picture a table, and on that table is a cage, and in that on that table is a red tablecloth, okay, and on that tablecloth is a cage, and in that cage is a white bunny rabbit with a blue 8 on its side.
Yeah.
And he says, I just sent you an image. Now, no matter where I am, no matter when I am, and where you are and when you are, you're going to read that, and you might have a different image of the tablecloth, you might have a different cage, and your bunny might be bigger or smaller or fluffier. He says, but you're going to remember the blue number 8 because that's universal. He says, but I just sent you an image. It's telepathy. It's a form of telepathy, right?
Nice.
And so I was like, telepathy, bunny rabbit, telepathic bunny. And I mean, I played around with it. I played around with it. And then eventually I got with Luke Stone to make my logo, and I was like, I want something kind of cartoony, but at the same time, I kind of like want something very distinctive. And we worked on it, and we came up with Mr. Bunny Rabbit, Mr. Up there in the corner.
Right totally.
There.
Yeah, totally.
But he's got all sorts of parts of me in him. He's got like the green suit was because my brother loved green, and he's got his initials are actually on the lapel, JMC. And if you look at
I can see that there on the left. Is that on the left there?
Yeah, on the left lapel? There. Yeah. I have to reverse it every time I switch him to one side or the other. But the thing about it is, though, is I knew if he passed away when he was 11, and he was an artist. And so I always believe if he had lived to be in adulthood, we'd be doing this together. And so this is my way of keeping him in.
That's cool. That's cool.
But it's become my brand, and I was telling him about it. The reason why I bought I bought a subscription to StreamYards is because I wanted the ability to use that logo. And I also wanted the ability to invite more people on my show and increase my amount of people I could have on a panel, which has been very useful. But at the same time, the branding, I mean, my opening crawl, that music, tell me what's on your mind. It's part of a song by Information Society.
Oh, right.
But because I use a different part of the song than what's the name of the song, I get away with it, because I've changed the concept of the song by using it. But at the same time, that whole thing, tell me what's on your mind, was just seemed so good for a talk show, which is what I was planning on having.
So Aaron, can I ask Aaron? So you work with your artists on your books. What do you do to brand? Like, do you come up with a style, or I can see you obviously have a logo.
Oh yeah. So basically, what I do is the way I work with my scripts and my writing, I want everything to feel like it's a cinematic experience because I don't know if it's just how my brain works or if this is actually true, but the way I see it is comics, because comic is the bridge between books and cinema, it can take in all of that and do it in a unique way. So you can actually get more cinema quality throughout that shit than let's say an actual movie too. Because with a movie you can just turn off your brain, but you're constantly reading and analyzing everything.
Yeah, totally.
And it just gets that much harder.
Yeah. So so then to make it cinematic, you write the story a certain way, and then in the book you have a lot of splashes.
Oh yeah. I've been trying this thing where at least every so often I try to have a splash, and it always happens right as you turn the page, and there's always an anticipating factor right before it.
Right, I got you. That's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, he's got a very cinematic way of making his books, and he's been discussing some really interesting stuff about maybe making like a Universal Monsters version of his book. We've been banding that about.
Like you mean like Frankenstein and
Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, things like that.
Oh yeah, Wolfsbane in the long run is gonna be this entire cinematic monsterverse that I'm trying to build from the ground up.
Are those in public domain?
Oh yeah. I have to make most of them either in public domain, or I have to make sure that they're loosely inspired, but I have to take my own spin on it.
Okay.
Like in number 2, we're gonna be introduced to a inspiration from the creature from the Black Lagoon. But
cool.
I shaped it so it's different and it has its own unique flair to it.
But Wolfsbane Comics is a very, very distinctive brand. It rolls off the tongue. It's very interesting. My man Odin Dasko over here says alliteration works well with Wonder Woman. Yep, it sure does. It sure does.
I agree.
But something simple as alliteration. Like my comic is going to be called Community Service. Okay, and the reason why that's going to work on so many different levels, and I really, this was after days and days of just like workshopping ideas, but then I realized I was like, I got a bunch of crooks that are basically going to wind up being the heroes of my story, and so what do they do?
You just gave it away.
Well, no, I've been talking about this for months, so Aaron knows the plot and everything.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know the whole thing, but
but the whole thing about community service, so you got community service is also like a hero thing, that's what heroes serve the community,
right?
But at the same time, it's also something that you do with prisoners, to like help them pay their debt back to society, and it just worked out that way. But when you get to go to branding what you want to create, you have to understand what is essential to my brand, or what is essential to this IP that I can push. Like on your case, you got a dystopian future that is not sanitized, is not pretty, is not like, slathered with Purell. It's a very nasty, dirty, stinky, dangerous place.
It's a good. That's a good point. One thing my colors are conflicting colors. They're not. They're not red and green, which is totally conflicting.
Right.
Like that's too much overload, I think, for people to see on every single page. Right. So, the colors do feel like they kind of are oppositional. So, it wasn't really, I think, just like being a writer, like I said a couple times, it kind of is our job to spot good things when we see them.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to do 100 different ideas and grab 4 of them and go, those are the 4 I'm going to use.
right.
or whatever the percentage is, right?
Right.
And that's if as an artist, you have to have a good eye to catch. Oh yeah, the way I lit that really works, or the way I did it this way doesn't work at all. I'm never going to do that again, which happens all the time. I think it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
But there's also this thing where I hate to say it, but when you're desperate to make something work, and you are fighting every single day to make it work because it has to work, right? I think that is where you get your best stuff. And I think if I'm sitting cush in my house in air conditioning and, just dreaming about whatever might happen, you don't really get that energy,
I feel that.
Right.
So you gotta have piss and vinegar in people to make good stuff.
Right. Well, you also have to have that. You have to understand the gravity of the situation. I see this all the time, especially in our group here. I see people who kind of have the makings of an idea, but they don't follow through with it in any way, any meaningful way, and I don't see them like focusing in. There's somebody, I'm not going to name his name in this community, but he's got like a very distinctive name that everybody knows. But then when he went to like name his shows, he didn't follow up on the theme.
Oh, I see.
And when I asked him about that, I was like, well, why don't you do this? And he's like, it's too on the nose. And I'm like, that's what branding is.
Yeah.
Branding is hitting the target. Hitting
so
the target
it's like
every
something
time.
it's like saying if I had a show and I didn't call it Shadow Punk, right? And I called it something unrelated. That's kind of what you're describing. Okay.
Exactly. If you want to get out a review because you're eager to talk about something, use the digital. If you want to see the quality, the physical, and how it looks in print, wait. Yeah. Talking about doing a review. But there's no reason you can't do both. Right.
You're right about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's exactly right. You've got a very niche product here. You got it has a sense of place and time. To the whole shadow punk, but then you look at the badge and it's got all this like industrial imagery, but it also has like the red and the blue,
right?
And then the little skull in there that's made out of metal. I mean, it is metal. I mean, it's very metal.
One of the perks I wanted to get was a how you can order buttons, like metal buttons, and sometimes they're more than just simple buttons. They're like carved out. I want to get the logo that looks like it's steel, right? And right. I know, but they're hard to ship because you end up they might damage the book when you put them inside the box, right? So I've never figured out.
There's ways around that. There's people that have managed to get around that. They put it in like wrapped it in a piece of foam.
Oh, right. I see.
And then put it inside like a baggie. And it doesn't really add that much more weight. It doesn't really add that much like size to it, but it protects any edges that you have from getting on anything else.
Can I point something out? I just noticed it because you're looking at my studio. So that's Galactus, obviously. Right. That's my hair. Right. So this is the original artwork from Old Man Logan.
Cool.
It's hard to see it, right? And then this is the first appearance of Hush, the original artwork, the Jim Lee artwork.
Oh, yeah.
That I got that from a guy online, and it got lost in customs for a month. Because he's in France. Right. So I originally bought it like 15, 20 years ago for like $5,000.
And
it's
$5,000.
Back then, and now it's worth like way more. If you go on Jim Lee's dealer's website, his pages are going for like 20,000 plus. Just pages, cool pages, right? And that's the first appearance. I think Hush is going to be in the next Batman movie. The Batman, I heard a rumor about that. So if I can hold on to it long enough, it'll just explode.
Yeah, now pretty much pay for everything, right?
It'll pay for everything. It's almost like if I sold it, I want to actually get it in a car, drive it to where the guy is, because I don't trust anybody to like ship it.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
That's a divergent, but so yeah,
well,
branding is one of those things where it takes a lot of effort, and it's almost like if you had somebody, like let's just say I was married or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my wife could be better at doing it than me because I'm busy doing this, right?
Yeah, right.
Because you need that second point of view. You don't need it, but it'd be nice. And you need somebody who can. Jim Lee's dealer is a guy named Albert Moy.
I think he's being like Jim Lee's got a drug problem. He's kind of
the wheeler dealer.
He probably does.
Dealer. Yeah, he knows he's got an art dealer. He's just. It's Frank's one of my trolls. You have to.
You got me. You got me. By the way,
he got you. I
fell for it. So hey, we've got a bunch of people online already now watching the show. Can I show them Fowler's Tiger Blue figure?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hold on 1 second. Let me get you up bigger. There we go. Look at that, man.
Oh, I can't see if I can show it.
Look at that.
I don't know where he is in production it's right now, but I know he's going to want to be selling these.
Oh yes, definitely. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So it came out awesome. I really wanted to capture like all the energy that's inside the character when he's leaping at you, ready to rip your head off.
Oh, definitely, right? Yeah.
Anyway, that's a plug for Fowler.
Yeah, we were talking about him earlier. Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. Like your IP, it should be able to stand on its own. Yes. But I think at the same time, if you manage to like, if you're like tied up in your IP, to where you're basically your IP sometimes becomes your brand, in a lot of ways. Like Wolfsbane Comics, for instance, me, I kind of went from the opposite end, where I basically establish myself as my own brand, but then I'm going to bring this IP in, and so people will know it's a Telepathic Bunny Comics product.
That's cool. Yep.
But then other people like Shadowpunk is a good example, where that IP is your brand. I mean, you spent 4 years putting together this jaw-dropping animation. I showed it to I showed it to Drunk Craig, my roommate, my infamous roommate, last night, and he's like, he spent 4 years on this. So it's like, yeah, he's like, it shows.
That's cool.
But he's pretty much, he likes he was an actor all over the United States. He was a professional actor for a long time.
Oh, cool.
And I mean, some of the names he can name drop, you're like, you know that guy? Yeah, I know him.
Really?
Blah blah blah. He knows where all the bodies are buried. But anyway, he helped bury some. But anyway, but he was watching it, and he was like, he said there's a lot. He managed to do the kind of like science fiction, but he left the humanity in. He said he thought that was the most impressive thing, was the fact that you knew who these people were.
You mean in my the animation?
Yeah.
That was really a struggle because you guys are writers, right? You guys know how to do that stuff, and I had to struggle really hard to make the characters distinctive and to make the story relatable, right?
Yeah.
And I knew it wasn't going to be Shakespeare, right? Yeah. Because I wasn't capable of doing that, but I tried everything. I threw the kitchen sink at it, and I rewrote it constantly. It just, one of the other, on a separate issue, I read this book a while back. It was about marketing your product.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really a fantastic book. And what the takeaway from the book was that your character, your main character, for example, Luke Skywalker, okay, Luke Skywalker isn't the hero of the story. the person watching the movie is the hero of the story, and that Luke Skywalker is your connection to that story. So Luke's going to make decisions that you would be making if you were in those. You know what I mean? And that's one way of branding where you go. You. I'm not going to say you put the hooks in, but you have a hook where you draw people into the story so they can relate to it. And
maybe that's why they rejected it so much when they screwed up Luke in the later movies. You know.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, you know, those Star Wars movies are they did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Right. They're destroying our heroes so that Captain America, Luke Skywalker. Whoever it is, right? Thor, they're going to be some crazy version in 10 years. And, the Hulk is a smart Hulk now. He's back to the smart Hulk, which I think looks ridiculous. I mean, no matter how good the animation is, I'm like, I want the Hulk that rips people to pieces.
Exactly.
It kind of missed the old mindless guy, you know. Hulk smash. Oh yeah, I'll smash. Yeah, I'll smash. I'll even punch Thor out. You know.
I mean, the best Hulk comic in my mind would be everybody versus the Hulk. And by the way, on the bottom it says who's really going to win.
Right.
Because that's how awesome the Hulk is. You know. Yeah.
That's a brand. That was his brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Hulk was this mindless like fighting machine, just wanted to be left alone, but you felt for him because he didn't hurt anybody. They at least try not to hurt anybody that wasn't hurting him first. You know, I mean, every once in a while there'd be these soft moments where he would like pick a flower and look at it, you know, or do something like that and calm down, you know. They come Bruce Banner again, but you know, when you mess with the branding, when you mess with everybody, you know what a brand actually is, right?
Well, Aaron, what do you think the definition of a brand is?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure. Like my basic understanding of a brand is something that you can use to market yourself that has an obtainable, like some sort of.
Well, let's go back further. Let's go back further. Okay.
Yeah.
When a cattle rancher had cattle.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make sure that everybody knew that cow was theirs. They would hold that thing down and burn a mark into their hide, okay? Now, I mean, it's a little brutal, okay? It's a little brutal, but people do. Well, yeah, there you go. Probably smelled like steak. But anyway, but the thing about it is everybody knew that cow was theirs, right? And but it's an indelible mark that says this is who this belongs to. Okay, so everything that comes out from you, people will know who that belongs to. You know, everybody will know. I mean, Marvel had a very indelible brand, and so did DC. DC had bigger than life gods walking the earth, but they also had this gritty Batman who, you know, beat people up, but he was bigger than life because he had more money than God, you know. But then you have Marvel where you had Peter Parker who could stop a bus running out, you know, with just the strength of his body, but then he couldn't meet his rent payments, you know.
Right.
And you had like a Steve Rogers who's just like, wait a second, I fell asleep in 1940 and now I'm in like
Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, Rumpelstiltskin, you know, man out of time, you know. Right. But all the like Stephen Strange his hands were like ruined. He couldn't be a surgeon anymore. You know, he became a wizard, but you know, his hands are still screwed up. But you know, but the thing about it is everybody had like with Marvel people, everybody had like that one like Daredevil's blindness, you know, everybody had like that mark against them that they had to overcome. You know, which gave them a humanity. And
some of those are better than others in the way that Daredevil being blind but having heightened senses captures your imagination, right?
Yes.
Right.
I mean, that really draws you in. You go, what the heck is really going on here?
Right.
You know, but it's a fascinating thing. And some of them are the Peter Parker thing is like a cool nuance to the character. Like it's about his character morality, right? he's a moral young kid, and that's who he's always going to be, right?
Mm-hmm. Hey, Greg, what's up, dude? Yeah. That's all part. It's all part of the branding, man. It's all part of who these characters are, and you knew who these characters were on another level. But I think branding also has to do with, if you have an IP, your Shadowpunk girl, very distinctive.
Right.
I mean, people are going to know who that is. It's very distinctive. Aaron, you're Lawrence. Your wolf guy. He's very distinctive. And once that gets out, and he's going to make. Once that comic gets out and around, people are going to know who that is, But thing about it is, though, is like I've got a guy, Ironsides. I'm sure people are probably pretty sick of me talking about him, but he's got a very distinctive brand. But I was very thoughtful. So, I mean, we're talking about multi-level branding here. We're talking about, who your branding. We're talking about your IP branding. And now we're talking about individual characters branding.
So I'll say this. That's an excellent point. Let's say the kind of branding that you look at it. You say you're at a convention or you're at a comic book shop, and you just walk past, say, Shadowpunk, because I made it, so I'll describe it. So you're gonna without thinking about it, you're gonna in a snap, you're gonna get conflict.
Yeah,
you're gonna get her rage, which is on the cover of my comic, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to get that this is happening. It's going to get you like that. And I think, but if you have something like Doctor Strange, it's totally different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you need Daredevil up and over those buildings and doing crazy shit, right? And you got to. I think it's kind of branding. We got to get it in a couple seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Like the notes, like the 4 notes kind of thing you were talking about.
Right.
Quite honestly, I think it's really hard to do, because if somebody would have told me the Mickey Mouse would be a really big thing, I would look at that and I would not get it. Right. Honestly, I personally would go Popeye. Both of those are interesting, but I would never think they would become huge. So people like to judge other IPs and say that's never going to work. But you know what? How do you know that?
Right.
I mean, the thing I make could not relate to people, and you don't know unless you put it in front of people and get feedback, right?
Yeah. Well, they have to know that you're the only place they can get this thing, but they have to want that thing, so it has to be good,
right?
It
has to be a there there.
Unique. Right. There has to be a there, right?
it's always like challenging to do that. Brand does equal identity. And it's got to happen. Well, so let's say it happens like that, the 3-second branding. So now you also have the different level of branding, which is the consistency of the story to always appeal to that kind of a thing. So if you're making the Hulk is being pursued constantly by the army, right?
Yeah.
And he's persecuted because he doesn't want to hurt anybody. And that, there's that whole dynamic, right? He doesn't fit into the Avengers and they kick him out of the club, right?
Yeah.
That's like perfect branding. He's always the guy on the outside.
Yeah. Right.
Tony
Stark. Yep.
Tony Stark.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Tony Stark has got, he's an alcoholic and he's got the thing he has to carry the briefcase around, which, by the way, I miss that a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
I think there's always a cool factor with Tony Stark where he was, he was always, he always had to charge his armor. There was like a desperation in the story. Granted, it can't happen all the time, right?
Right.
Every issue can't be, I got to plug my briefcase in for 10 minutes. Yeah. Right? I mean, at a certain point, that's going to become old, right? But you know what I mean? I wish they would bring that back.
Well, there's been times where they've rebooted Tony Stark, and they've, for some reason or another, they took his company away from him, and he had to build it from scratch, or he had to get stuck in a situation where he had access to his advanced armor, and he had to build something from scratch, and he always managed to innovate, But that was his part of his brand was he's this disaster area of a person with a
right,
that can't function and like maintain relationships in his personal life. But you stick him in a machine shop and he comes up with something that nobody else in the world can touch, But it's like the whole dichotomy was just part of his brand, that whole, shit show part of his personality,
right, right.
The whole abrasiveness, to say out loud what other people are thinking, and they're all kind of like, I mean, that's Tony Stark, and you knew him. That's why when Robert Downey Jr. I wasn't convinced at first.
I wasn't
either.
Be
honest
with you. Yeah.
I'm like, Robert Downey Jr., how in the world could he play a superhero? I just don't see it. But then from the first moment I saw him walk out as Tony Stark, and I was like, that's the guy. Yeah. That's the guy that can play Tony Stark. Because he was based on Howard Hughes, and Howard Hughes is definitely a different look than
you're
Robert
right.
Downey
He
Jr.
wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's who they used for the face model for Tony Stark.
So here I have a question then. So so Aaron, if you're working with your artists and do you have to like the person that colors it and the person that pencils it and inks it, do you have to like watch that stuff, monitor it so that it stays within your vision?
For me, it honestly depends on the artist. I personally do a lot of like pre-scouting before I consider hiring somebody, and then I talk to them a little bit about the project, and then we just mesh. After a while, lately I've been getting lucky. I've been able to just say what I want to get done, and I leave a few notes here and there so they stay in that direction. But other than that, I just give them room to create what they think would be cool, and it's been paying off so far.
So and you also don't want to stifle them. If you start second guessing everything they do, they'll give you junk, right? Because they'll be afraid to take chances and do something because that's happened to me in my career plenty of times in other jobs where I'm like, if I go on a limb, I'm going to be here all night fixing the things you want to change, right?
Right.
So
right.
I mean, so the way you deal with your artists is important. So
there was a Comics Mate and Kimosabi and Ali Sangui put out a video this morning, and it was Kelly Sue DeConnick's first script for Bitch Planet. Okay, and it is the most condescending, convoluted, like vile piece of shit I think I didn't even know you could put that much nasty on a page. But I mean, this woman's just like vile creature that she is. It's all on that script, and it was like, what? You agree with me, Aaron?
No, I disagree. If you don't know Kelly Sue DeConnick, you should know that she's the most righteous creature on the planet Earth, and you should be ashamed, you bigot.
Oh gosh! Oh Lord!
Nah,
oh Lord!
Fuck her.
Well, I saw a couple interviews with her, and I remember going, "Man, you got it bad, lady. You got it real bad. You got this whole thing, this whole like feminism, Marxist deal going on, and it's creepy as hell." I mean, I pity the guy that has to come home every day and talk to her about the world.
You mean Matt Faction? Yeah, I don't. He's a
dick too. Right?
Is he?
He's a dick too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tark's 9. Tark's 9.
Tark's.
Right quick. Yeah.
He should be getting. By the way, Tark should be getting his. I sent his figure out yesterday, Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, he won that one. That's right.
He should be getting it pretty soon.
Cool.
You know what's funny? So, by the way, Tarks lives probably. I live in Metro Detroit, and he lives in Ontario area, which is it's actually not that far. It cost me more. It cost me more money to send it to Ontario than it did to send something to Houston.
Yeah,
that's the world, right?
The Canadian systems is really it's socialism, man.
Socialism.
What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say?
It's a hell of a drug.
It's a hell of a drug. But yeah, hold on. Kelly looks like a woman whose vagina has an odd smell.
I wouldn't say. I wouldn't actually verbalize that, but it's totally true.
Totally true. Anyway.
If you weren't on a date with her and then you're like, okay, this is gonna go bad in about an hour. If I stick around,
Yeah. Well, she said in this opening that our default's going to be black. Okay. So everybody good's got to be black, but everybody bad has to be white. And the richer they are, the more power they have, the whiter the skin.
She said the lighter the skin, yeah. The lighter the skin.
She said that. Wow. She said that.
Racist.
And, I mean, the whole thing was just vile. I mean, and she also said, on this one panel area, she says, okay, I want a Brady Bunch kind of squares, like that. And here's a picture of the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so condescending.
Because that's supposed to be super white or something?
Well, I mean, she wanted the squares, people's heads and squares.
The format.
Yeah, the format. And like the guy wouldn't know who that is, and it was just so condescending. The whole entire thing. It's funny because Dean, who's an artist, he's like, I would just throw this thing away. I would say, you fix this thing. I am not going to draw this. He was so bad. It was so funny.
You know where they did that whole dynamic? They did that with Rogue One.
Okay. Oh, right. Right.
All the women and all the quote unquote people of color are in the good side, and all the evil side is all white men. Even her dad is a white man who can't help being evil, even if he tries it. Right? And I'm like,
not help being evil.
Well, he gets sucked in. Right? He gets sucked into it. Right?
Right.
He's forced to do it, and even and you're like, okay, people don't think this way. And I think people watch that stuff and they go, I did. I cringed when I saw it. I was like, people aren't like this.
No,
it's like saying that men are violent and women aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a break. Okay.
Like everyone has to be a member of the Billionaire Boys Club. Get out of here.
Right.
That script was a nightmare, yet hilarious from the outside. Odin, yeah.
Odin.
Yeah, watching that was very eye opening because I saw some tendencies that I have to over explain to my artist. And so I was like, ow. Okay, I need to rewrite some stuff.
Exactly.
When you can I ask you, when you write for your artist, do you lay out panel per panel what things are, or do you say?
Yeah, I've done that in the past, and I'm gonna stop doing that now.
I mean, I only lay it out a little bit for the stuff that's important.
Yeah.
Like, if he wants to add some references in, then he's free to do that. I remember one panel that he just did. He added in some fucking Conan, so that's what Lawrence likes to read on the side. So that's fucking cool.
Right. Well, I'm guilty of like if I have a face in mind or like I'll do a reference of that, or if I have like a particular like the penthouse. I had him do this penthouse, and I wanted this like 70s Art Deco style, so I found pictures of a penthouse with that Art Deco style. So
that makes sense.
That's what he used. But I've also like done panel by panel, and I had this one moment that I'm not proud of, and I'll keep bringing this up because it shows what a doofus I can be. But my artist brought up that I had a page that was missing. If you look at the way my arcs are, I have like mini arcs that are building, and I was missing like part of an arc, and he was right. And so I created a new page, and he went back and he gave me that page. And when I saw it, I was like, it was not what was in my head. And I'm like, I was like, man, if you don't have time to like go back and like I it's fine, but I was like, I do need this fixed eventually. And he's like, it was what was in your script. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. And then I looked and it was exactly what was in my script.
Really?
The script was the problem.
I've worked on jobs in my career over the years where people have been, sometimes people they want you to they literally want you to do it exactly right, and they, they'll say, I didn't say put green in the script.
Right.
So why is there green in the thing? And then some people, but then like down the road, they'll say, how come you just don't do cool shit? Just do your cool shit, man. Just make it cool.
Right.
I'm like, because you're literal, guy. And you get me every time you on this stuff. And by the way, you're the client, so I can explain to you that this is actually happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the thing about it is when I went back and I changed it, and I gave him like a more broad description of what I wanted. The page he came back with was better than pretty much anything he'd given me so far, and I'm tempted to go back remaster everything, but I feel you on that, man. But the thing about it is though is reason why I'm very specific, the reason why I'm kind of like I have a definite something in mind that I'm going to keep going until I get it. It's because I want my brand to be a very specific style with my comic. Okay. And the art is good enough now to go out, and nobody would bat an eye. People would praise it. It looks great. But it's just, I have like this one more thing that I want to get to. I have this one idea that I just can't get out of my head that it's got to be that, So I have this other guy that I'm waiting on right now.
Oh, I think you told me about this.
Yeah, to do an overlay and
yes, a certain quality.
Yeah, but the thing, it's not that it's not that they're not meeting the standard. I mean, I could send it out right now and it'd be perfectly fine.
Right.
And it's just me. It's what I want my comic to look like. And they don't do that style, but this guy does. And so I'm like, use the colors and use the lines that they have. But I want you to punch it up and make it look painted, And,
well, I think as writers, you guys are also overseers, right? You guys are like, so at some point you go, this works, but boy, this thing you did over here is so cool. Yeah. Right. We need more of that because I can see, you can see the finish line, right? And it does frustrate artists because, like, how you rewrote a page and made it better. Right. But it's like your decisions have repercussions. So if you write it simple and he makes it simple, then you're like, why is it so simple? You're like, dude, I just spent all day,
And I felt like total crap when I've apologized to him multiple times. He's like, you don't have to apologize as much. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I just want you to know, I know I screwed up.
Well, one thing I always notice, if you find people that you work really well with, and you have a good team, man, totally stick with it. I mean, even if I don't know what you pay people for, right? Like percentages or flat rate, but whatever it is, if you have a team of people, man, and that's also a brand, right? Yeah. Because I don't know, I'm sure Wolfsbane looks a certain way, right? And it's like, man, that is a brand, and somebody could copy it, but not as good.
Right. And thank you for bringing back the topic.
Branding, right?
But the bottom line, though, I think it's a pretty decent place to kind of like wind things up. But when we're talking about branding, just remember that what KT Tunstall said. They gotta know who you are in 4 bars. And what that means visually is they got to know from an image, or they got to know from an icon, or they got to know, for whatever it is.
That's it.
Yeah.
And on the side of a bus going by, you should get it like that.
Right. Yeah. And so a very distinctive icon can do it. A very distinctive name can do it. Like everybody knows who Mo Biggs is. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And if Mo Biggs shows up, and you're going to get excellent moderation, and you're also going to get a bunch of snark. Some of the funniest snark in all of CG. Okay.
People love him.
People love him, right? But or even Cecil, okay? You see the baklava with Dick on it, okay? Everybody knows who that is,
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I mean, even if he's not there, you see the baklava with Dick, and you're like, hey, there's Cecil's, headscarf or whatever.
If it works, it works.
If it works, it works. Find out what works. Find out what makes people immediately read it and go, oh yeah, I know who that is. But you know what? If you have a brand and you run it into the ground, people will see that and go, oh, skip. So that's the dark side of branding.
Yeah.
If you put out bad stuff, if you give people a bad taste in their mouth from your actions and things that you do, then you tank your brand. And once it's, and there's no way to save it after that, which is what Marvel and DC and all these other people are finding out. And Star Wars, yes, Star Wars. You tank your brand and you change what that brand represents, then you've ruined it for all time. Like they even brought back Doctor Who. I used to be a big Whovian, okay, but they tanked that brand, okay,
Yes.
and they brought back the original guy that wrote the first Who when it came back, but then I'm not convinced. I'll probably never go back to it. I mean, I just won't. They tanked it for me. Yeah. But the thing about it is also, you got Ghostbusters 2016 and Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Right. Sometimes they do learn a lesson.
People forgive you. People will forgive you if you bring back, Mandalorian season 2 fight finale. I saw people weep when they watched that finale. I'm not going to spoil it. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Well, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Because I don't people love it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But people are like, that's him. That's Luke Skywalker. I know that guy. That's the guy I know. That's the guy I had in my head canon. That's the guy. And it was obviously the Luke Skywalker from the all the fiction that came after the Star Wars ended. All the expanded universe that KK said that, oh, we can't use that stuff, throw it out. That stuff. Yeah, they obviously went back to that source material.
So I don't want to go into a long conversation about Star Wars because I have something to say.
Right.
I'll do it after the show's over because I want to point something out. It'll take like forever.
All right. Okay. We'll have that conversation offline. Anyway, guys. So I guess in conclusion, cultivate a brand. Let people know who you are. Even if it's a name, if it's an icon, if it's like a something you represent, or if it's your IP, but cultivate a brand that's immediately identifiable as you. And so that when you pop, even if you just pop into a chat, people know who that is.
True.
And if you're on a stream, people know who that is, and they'll click on it just because it's you. But you have to build some kind of brand image, and branding is very important. And make sure you don't garble your brand. Make sure if you have a distinctive brand, stick with it. Ride that horse. Ride it, because that's indelible mark. That's you. That's your identity. Ride that thing. Anyway.
Yeah, don't be like Batman, letting looters rob people.
That's something for a different time. We're gonna skip that. Anyway, we'll be here all day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming, Shadow Punk. Thank you for Aaron for riding shotgun with me. Thank you to the fluffiest chat and all of YouTube. And that's all we've got for today. Y'all have a good afternoon. Bye.
Tell me what's on your mind.